guys, Leander here. There's been a few weeks with no new content. Since my initial couple of videos, I had a death in the family, so I decided to take a very short break, but I'd like to get back into it. The run we're going through today will be a Quarter Stars 18. I was tanking. We had Druid for Life as regular, our being our healer. One Pug DPS, a mage that we have known for a while, and a Longma who's my favorite sub rogue. Let's give it a go. First bit is not very interesting. I'll go through what legendaries I use. I use the Brazers for blood, and I use the new ring from Antorus. The main reason I use the new ring from Antorus is because the stats it has are decent, and the effect is not that bad, but it's also item level 1000, and this was on one of the days where I hadn't had the time to upgrade to legendaries yet, so that's why I choose it. As soon as I have the time to upgrade my Cephas, I'll probably be using Cephas again, especially on fights where you can proc it reliably. It's pretty good. Right, you just saw us kill that first guy. Now, usually people would jump over the river and go right, but because it is bursting this week, we decided to take a left here. This trash here is really easy to kill. It doesn't take very long, and it's a lot of trash. You can see right now we're at 6% trash, and as soon as we kill all this, you'll see that we'll be slightly higher than 6% on trash. And it's just very effective use of your time if you go kill this trash. One of the things that I've been getting into more and more as I have learned how to tank, if it makes sense, is how to minimize pulls where you pull one mob at a time. The thing with, like, the reason why we would not want to go right to kill that single construct there, right here you can see we're at 23%, so that's 17% of the dungeon in that one pull. The reason why we didn't want to go right is you will end up pulling one mob with a lot of health, and that might take you about a third of the, like maybe half the time that this one big pull has cost you. It's just very ineffective. So if you're getting into tanking, you wanna try to find ways on how to maximize your pulls very efficiently. For this week's affixes specifically, Quaking doesn't really do much, although it can just simply destroy your group. Because if it comes in on a very unopportune time, let's say on the let's say in Halls of Valor on Hershia, if it comes in at a time where you're like hiding in the lightning bubble and you're doing a higher mythic plus, then you might just get destroyed because the healer just can't keep up with having to stop healing and having to heal everybody up and like spam heal everyone. And the way that we're dealing with bursting is, for all of my runs, I have the entire team on Discords. It is just absolutely needed. The people who I need most on Discord will be myself, and I'm gonna turn this music down a little bit. Will be myself and the Druid for Life Gav, the healer, because if I pull big and we're going to end up killing everything at once, bursting might just destroy everyone. However, if he knows that there are 6 stacks incoming, like if he knows that, or if he knows that there are 12 stacks incoming, it doesn't really matter. like the difference between maybe 8 and 12 stacks is not that big, because for both of them you will want to use your cooldown. I'm pretty sure that Druid for Life spec'd into his legendary healer Trinket for this one, so that when we do go up to very high stacks, he can also activate his Trinket, which will help out a lot. What you want to do, what you want to really pay attention to and focus on in bursting weeks, is that you don't stagger the burstings. What bursting does is, oh right, this is this bull. Yeah, okay. I think we wipe here. I'm not sure though, but we might kill all the trash first. Yeah, so on bursting weeks, what you want to pay a lot of attention to is that you don't stagger one stack into the next stack into the next stack. That is the biggest offender of deaths in a bursting week bug. The way that bursting works is that you get a debuff on you as soon as you kill something that will tick for a set percentage of your health. That debuff lasts, I believe, about 4 seconds. And within that time, if you kill something else, then that debuff is going to last, is going to get refreshed, and it'll go 1 tick up. So what you don't want to do is have a 4 stack, that gets staggered into a 5 stack. So like the 4 stack is almost over, and then you get staggered into a 5 stack, and then the 5 stack is almost over, and then you get staggered into a 6 stack, and the 6 stack is almost over, and you get staggered into a 7 stack. Now that's what's going to kill your group, because your healer just simply can't keep up generally. The way to do it is to go balls to the walls, AoE absolutely everything down together, and don't get stunned here like I just did, because you're standing in the AoE cleave. Yeah, so you don't want to stack the 5 into the 6 into the 7, because that is the thing that is going to destroy your group. What we did here is something that I would almost call a death run. If you would do it on trash, it would be a death run. We just wasted a lot of our time, like from the dungeon, just because we didn't want to concede that we made the wrong pull, or we didn't want to concede to our mistake. So we just wasted like 4 or 5 minutes of just fighting stuff and just bullheadedly keep on going. What you want to do in those scenarios where you obviously messed up and it's going to take you a lot of time, instead of using all of your battle reses and heroism like we did, you'll want to just die and go again. If you just die and go again, that is going to end up saving you a lot of time, because you won't have to deal with the impossible scenario that you just saw us in. And like, unless you're 100% certain that you can make it, unless you know that the trash is like close to dead, and if you heroism and just pop all your AoE stuff, the trash is going to be dead and you can get onto the boss, then it's fine. If you pull a lot on purpose with the boss, then that's also fine. It's all about predictability, really. As long as you can keep your combats predictable and you know what you're gonna do before you go into the combat, that's when you're generally fine. But on the previous pull, you saw that I got knocked back into the boss, and then we had to adapt on the fly, and that's almost always just a bad idea. So you'll just generally wanna wipe and go again, or maybe let the healer die first, and then have your healer get battle resed if it's a long run back. And if it is a long run back, then you have your healer battle res, and then get battle res, then res himself. Um, then everybody can eat up, and you'll have lost like maybe 35 seconds. But in this case, um, we lost minutes, and this could have like literally just killed the run. If this would have been a 20 run, we might as well have stopped if we wanted to do it just for points. Um, but obviously it's an 18, and we are very comfortable in this dungeon for the rest of the run. So we decided to just finish it out, try to get it in time, try to get ourselves a 19 key. The initial goal with this key was to get a 20 key, but sometimes you have to do it in steps. Alright, this run has been recorded in the new 7.3.2 season. It is the season of Antorus. Antorus is pretty good. It's pretty fun. I might do a series on it. In this first week of Antorus, while everybody was busy getting all their good Antorus stuff done, Gav and I decided to push some higher Mythic Plus, and we ended up getting 10th in the world after we did a full run through of all the dungeons. I imagine that I've probably gotten pushed out of the top 100 right now, but it was a pretty good set of runs. As you can see here, we are at 72% already. That is because we ended up killing a lot of that trash on the left side. This means that we can be slightly more conservative with killing trash here. So we just can go to the different buffs, grab all the buffs, and then get the heck out of there. The trash in this part of the dungeon is pretty punishing sometimes on Fortified, especially those Inquisitors. They do a cast called Ice Storm, and Ice Storm absolutely destroys people. Luckily, as a DK, you can just wait for them to start their Ice Storm, and then grip them, and then they're sad because they can't finish their Ice Storm. These imps here are probably the second highest offenders of deaths in a Court of Stars run. The way that you should deal with them is that you very, very badly need to be super aware of what's going to happen before you pull the imps. You need to have a plan, and you need to execute that plan perfectly, because otherwise one of those packs of imps, if they all get one cast off generally, and they just single target one person down, that one person is going to get blown up, and then you're only with the four of you. If they get another kill off on another person, then you're only with the three of you, and that is generally the point where you no longer have the DPS to kill everything. So you want to go in with a plan. Our plan was to have a Binding Shot, Typhoon, Ursul's Vortex combo to stop their initial cast and have them have an AoE stun down for a couple of seconds. Now, obviously, it's better to just have a warrior, but sometimes you don't have a warrior, and then you have to get creative with your AoE stuns. Right here, just to save time, because we knew we were on a very severe timer, we pulled this trash pack with the first mini boss. out of all the 3 mini bosses in this dungeon, the first one doesn't really do much except for have a whole bunch of health. The second one doesn't really do much except for have a whole bunch of health. Actually, the third one, that's the third one. The third one doesn't do much except for his immense health pool. But the second one, on a fortified week, that's the one that you want to be slightly careful with. Because he does this single target beam cast on someone. And if he does one cast of that beam, it's not that big of a deal. If he does 2 casts in a row on the same person, and you don't have a way to stop it, like Shadow Meld or Feign Death, or you don't have an immunity to soak it with, basically, if you're a warrior, you're screwed. Because the beam does increasing amounts of damage the more often you get hit by it. Right here, we're jumping over to the other side. We can see that the imps are coming, so we want to very proactively deal with them. And this is with the same combo of Trap, Typhoon, Vortex, my Glaives, Longma's ridiculous AoE DPS. And we ended up fine here. We did pull an Enforcer that we did not have to pull, because we only had 1 mini-boss left, and we do have Bizarre Goods up. I just did not know that Bizarre Goods could be used by our rogue. Right here, I did not want to tank the Enforcer somewhere where the other patrol was, so I ended up dragging him all the way, or driving her, sorry, all the way over here. I tanked her over there so that people can hide in the little house. Now, if you want to do a tank position like this, you have to take into account that if you tank her inside of the house, then the mini-boss interaction sometimes messes up, which means that you sometimes don't get the mini-boss to spawn because the Enforcer was killed inside of the house. And the mini-bosses can't... I think they might not be able to... I guess roleplay-wise, they might not be able to hear the cry if it's coming from inside of a house. I'm not sure, but in any case, you don't want to tank them inside the house. Now, on any level, in seeing myself get stunned so often feels bad. On any level, where you need to like kill the Enforcers because you don't have the spawns up that that summon mini bosses, you always want to be careful where you actually tank the mini bosses, because if you kill one of the Enforcers, then a new one will spawn, and there are only 4 spawn points in the entire dungeon. If you tank one of the mini bosses on top of the spawn point of one of the Enforcers, then you might just get destroyed because the Enforcer spawned on you without you noticing, and blah blah blah, all that good stuff, being backstabbed. Now right here, we did have the unfortunate Enforcer spawn. We are going to try to stealth past, but Enforcers have true sight, I believe, which is why we got, yeah, true sight, which is why we ended up having to tank yet another one of them, even though we were already above percentage. This is the this is the unfortunate part of taking the left route. and that is that you don't always know how much percentage you are going to need in the second part of the dungeon, because if you have no spawns up that you can spawn mini bosses with, I think we just end up wiping here. If you have no spawns up that you can spawn mini bosses with, then you are going to end up having to kill at least 3 enforcers, and an enforcer is like 6% each. So that is a good 18% that you are forced to take, and if you are then backstabbed by random mobs or packs of imps or packs of patrols or etc etc, then you might end up pulling way too much in this dungeon. Also, Quaking sucks if you want to eat. Now, this boss, I would highly suggest that if you have a lot of single target DPS, but you kind of lack in the AoE DPS compartment, that you heroism this boss. Because if you're on a tyrannical week, that is. This boss does so incredibly much damage, such an ridiculous amount of damage, that you really want to be very careful with how you do your spawns. It's all about where do I spawn those imps? Can I kill the imps before the imps kill me? That's what this boss is about. It's actually not at all about the single target damage on the boss, because the difference between 5 packs of imps and 6 packs of imps is not that big, because you just want to be able to that quaking though, because you just want to be able to kill the imps before they end up killing you. So if you can successfully do that for most of the fight, then it's not that big of a deal if your single target DPS on the lady herself is not that good. But as soon as you start falling behind on imps, or they all get casts off and you just can't burst them down quick enough, that's where you're going to start losing people. And the reason why battle res is so important in Mythic Plus is if you do end up losing one person, you are losing a third of your DPS. And losing a third of your DPS is a very big deal. Because a lot of the high pressure situations where you could lose someone, if you actually end up losing someone, then the trash is difficult enough to be able to lose someone. And if they can kill that one person, they'll kill another, and they'll kill another. So losing a person in such a scenario is like a catalyst to losing the entire run sometimes. I'm just thinking of situations like imps here, or the pelters in Neltharian's lair. Alright, this mini boss actually does a lot of damage on a Fortified. I think you might see some of her DPS get one shot here. I'm not entirely sure. I recorded this run about 2 days ago. But it being the first week of the new season, I think I did maybe 30 or so high Mythic Plus runs in 4 days. The Crit Carrion Swarm is, for tanks specifically, something that you can sidestep. So as soon as he casts it, you can just slightly move to the side. Then you don't get any damage from it at all. And I really wonder why that specific Shadow Bolt volley did so much damage. Because we ended up doing a 19 Corner Stars one as well. I didn't record it, so I can give a run through of that one. But in that run, the Shadow Bolt volley only took people down to like maximum of like 20%. So to have both Bragnas, Cheat Death proc, and Rala die, that was very strange. Right here though, we are pretty certain that we can finish the dungeon in time. We have another 2.5 minutes, and it is a fortified week, so the boss fights shouldn't last much more than about 2 and a little bit minutes. Alright, and then we just pull this guy as soon as we can. Pop heroism, pop potions if they have them. You always want to kind of pre-move to where the boss has just moved to. Just so that you maximize your DPS, because you can still hit him if you have your character turned towards him. And you will then be at his new position quicker. One of the really great things about Death Knights as tanks is that we have consumption, and consumption is really overpowered in a 5-man scenario, such as Mythic Plus. The damage of the Slicing Maelstrom is really, really insane, as it ramps up and up and up. Every single charge that he does increases the damage done by his by that piercing gale. So it does have a drop-off point, because at some point the illusions that he makes are going to disappear when he makes a new one. I think the drop-off point might be 8 illusions, I'm not entirely sure. But with that consumption ability, you can give your entire party a leech, and with giving everybody a leech, you can help out your healer enormously, because if someone is able to help heal themselves for a total of what, like maybe 1 million over those 4 seconds, then that's an enormous help for the healer, because it means he has to effectively not have to do 4 million extra healing during those 5 seconds, which is a lot of healing. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with this run. There were a couple of mistakes, especially that mistake on the first boss, where we were just stubborn and we didn't want to concede that we made a mistake. So we popped terrorism and all the battle reses and all our cooldowns. But overall, pretty good run. I hope you guys learned something. I hope it was informative, and I'll make sure to keep making more videos. I'll try to make at least a video a week of how to deal with that week's affixes, and I'm going to try to do that on the Thursday. But I still have my semi full-time job, and I still have my university as well, so sometimes stuff comes up. Right, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.